Welcome in, Kuma Crew. It is once more your favourite friendly despair bat, Annakuma, and today we're here to review a game. Not even one in the demo review game, guys! Mainly because I'm reviewing a different game that is kind of a non-sequel to this game, but it is a game set after this one in the same universe, and I feel like I need to try to get at least this video out first for some context for the second one. Literally only a tiny bit of context. Yes, today we are reviewing Brundislav Games' masterpiece, Lamplight City. We got there, guys. I waffled, but we got there. This is a game that Warted has been telling me to play for years, probably since I first met him, and I have no good reason why I didn't, other than I didn't own it, and then I forgot to buy it. And I think maybe Warted did actually buy it for me, and then I just put it off because backlog. If you think my backlog of videos is bad, you have no idea how bad my backlog of games is, especially adventure games. So this year, before Rosewater released, I sat down to play it, and oh boy did it blow my little bare mind. You start the game playing as Miles Fordham. You and your partner Bill Legere are investigating a number of break-ins at a flower shop. This acts as your tutorial level and gets you ready for how the game plays. After leaving a trap for the thief, you and Bill end up on the rooftops with them just to have Bill die.
No! Bill! Oh God!
Fast forward, and Miles has retired from the police and is now a private investigator. Unfortunately for Miles, he is also haunted by the extremely talkative spirit of his former partner Bill.
I'm losing my grip on reality, and it's all because of you.
Believe me, I know. It's not a pretty situation. But the bottom fact is, you're stuck with me.
And so begins a fantastical series of events, with Miles in a ghostly voice only he can hear. Unlike, for example, the Blackwell games, where Joey the Ghost is always present, this game never shows Bill again. He genuinely is just a voice in Miles' head, which I kind of like because it gives that feeling of whether or not Bill really was there to begin with. We get no representation of Bill, and by the time we rejoin Miles, he's already taking drugs to sleep, and you can almost imagine that this is his guilty conscience pushing him to finish what he and Bill started. Back to the game, and at first the game feels like it is just a bunch of unconnected cases. Some woman was made to seem dead but is really alive, a kid has been kidnapped, someone is murdered on election night. To be fair, to a point, they are all kind of unconnected cases. What they are there for is world building though. Through the eyes of the people you meet, you learn of New Britannia, warts and all. You'll end up in opium dens, finding out about the war against new technologies, diving into the upper and lower classes and airing out all of the dirty laundry, whilst trying to figure out how to find the flower shop thief. And yes, I'm saying thief and not burglar, because I feel like I can only say burglar at least twice in a video before I go crazy. Each case brings in unique characters and very different circumstances. You get to visit a wide selection of places and learn all sorts of different ways of life. Lamplight City, if anything, lets you live in the city and makes it feel like your city. Now, I won't be going into too much more detail about the cases, and there is a reason for that. Lamplight City, and big spoilers here, Rosewater as well, are huge games. I want to delve deeper into them at a later point. This review, and indeed the Rosewater one, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna mention Lamplight City and Rosewater in these two reviews all the time, because like, it's just there in my head right now. But in some ways, these reviews are going to be more like first impression videos, because even with 16 hours in this game and nearly 20 in Rosewater, I haven't even scratched the surface of what these games are. That is because what Brundislav Games does really well is give you multiple routes through their games. You'll always be able to navigate through them, but not always in the most optimal way. I think I mentioned in the Rosewater demo review that I really like this because it gives an inbuilt difficulty level for you. If you really struggle or made a wrong decision, then you are never soft-locked. You just have to kind of put your hands up and say, this case is unsolvable for me. And whilst that might feel like an annoying way out, it at least lets you finish the game. That being said, to be fair, the game also autosaves at the beginning of every case, so you can't just rewind to the beginning of the case and try again. I personally usually just go with the flow, but after getting completely lost in one case, I did do a single rewind, and still don't think I got the optimal ending for it anyway. That being said, there is a different feeling to being able to legitimately brute force your way through the game in Rosewater and talking yourself out of being able to solve a case in Lamplight City. So maybe it isn't really a difficulty level in Lamplight City, more just a way to make sure you can move on and complete the game. This is because you can lock yourself out of certain areas and endings and even some puzzles.
No answer. Looks like you blew your chances with this place.
When I say you can lock yourself out, I really mean it as well, and it can be very easy to do. In the one case that I restarted, I upset the lady at the door of the opium den before even having a clue on how to get in, which meant that I could never attempt to get in again. In fact, the opium den was the second place I visited in this playthrough, and I ruined it before I'd gone anywhere else. There is a similar part in the first case where you can upset this lady here to the point she might not give you any more help. This will be a very personal decision for people whether they like this or not, but I found it fascinating. Again, the game never blocks you from completing the game, you just don't complete it perfectly, and it makes replaying the game extremely enjoyable as you go through the game either trying to perfect it or just goofing around. But it also makes you on second playthrough think more carefully. Much of the game is about how you have Miles interact with the world. There are entire puzzles you'll never get to solve if you get heavy-handed or treat people badly. There are usually characters you can ask for help, you just need to remember to go and talk to people constantly. You're the master of your own destiny, but like in reality, if you go in all guns blazing, people don't need to listen and help you.
Stop right there. That's quite enough from you.
I beg your pardon?
Don't think I can't tell what your game is. You're trying to lure me away from here and into some alley where your gang of Sambos is gonna rob me blind. Exactly how many of them have you got lying in wait for poor unsuspecting fools you bring them?
Just one. And he doesn't appreciate you talking to his wife that way.
You know, Miles, sometimes I forget how absolutely delightful it is to watch you lose your head.
That isn't to say Lamplight City doesn't have its fair share of more hands-on puzzles. Again, you might miss them if you take the wrong turn, but there are a few puzzles around to keep you occupied. If you get to the end of the first case, you can unlock a secret door with a piano puzzle, and later on, to get into someone else's apartment, you need to fix this boiler here. It is far and few between and not really the focus of the game at all, but those moments are there, and when they do pop up, it is super fun to be able to get stuck into some real point-and-click puzzling. There is also the inventory. Whilst you don't have an active inventory that you use, you will pick up some items, and if and when you can use them, it'll just happen. Yeah, it isn't the most exciting. It is like if this character wants X item and you have it in your inventory, you'll just be able to give it to them. Or if you need an item to open this thing and it is there next time you click it, it just happens. I do feel it helps give the game its very grounded in reality feel. In some ways, it feels like playing a TV show. It stops you trying to do crazy things with items because Miles just wouldn't do it. Personally, overall, I really enjoyed it, but a friend also played not long after me, and she had some troubles initially getting into the flow of what the game would play like, so I can see how it being much more dialogue-based and less pointish and clickish could take people a moment to get used to, and to be fair, if it takes you too long to get used to it, there could be a problem. You see, I had played Rosewater's demo before I played Lamplight City, and knowing that Rosewater had multiple ways to deal with situations, I went into Lamplight City thinking this game would be similar, so I was looking out for ways to block myself off from the get-go. I had also just very recently played Gabriel Knight, which I can't help but feel this game is the spiritual successor of, especially with the interrogation scenes, with the portraits of the characters talking. I managed to get the first case probably as perfect as you could get, but I got to it knowing to tread careful, to keep talking to people, and to not go with the first option that sprang up to me. Others might go into it and find their way blocked, or see that there is more to the case, not understand how to unlock it, and feel less happy with how the game plays out. Again, and it is weird to be comparing it constantly to the game that came out after it, and I haven't even yet reviewed, Rosewater's different paths in the demo were about opening up a door with inventory-based puzzles, and I never felt like I was going to be blocked off of something else by doing things the way I did. So whilst I was ready for this to have multiple ways to deal with it, I can understand if you get the first case wrong, which I thankfully didn't, then it can lead to frustrations. But if that is you, then I can honestly say give it another go, please. Go into it looking at the way you play it differently. There is so much hidden depth to the game, which is why I want to make a longer review after I've completed multiple paths. And whilst it might feel frustrating at first when you get into the swing of it, I feel you'll feel very differently. If anything, the biggest positive is just the characters.
You know a man named Ronan Lespay?
Cormac knows few men. People don't much like talking to a man who spends his days in the sewers.
Lamplight City is wonderfully written, the story is compelling, and it is told at such a personal level. Each case is its own unique thing. You'll meet characters who have had their lives turned upside down, either by the case at hand or things happening in the world at large. But the thread that runs through it all is Miles and his relationship with others. And that doesn't mean just Bill, who is ever present and nagging away at his sanity, but his wife is also there and some of his closest friends too. As I said earlier, this is really a game about coming to terms with your own guilt and grieving.
Yeah, and with the way you've been going, you'll end up like me sooner rather than later.
Miles is obviously left traumatized and feeling guilty over the death of his partner. People do see him as the reason that Bill is dead. He has to take drugs to drown the voice of Bill out, and later in the game can turn to alcohol instead. Though to say he was fully turning to alcohol is unfair, as he gets drunk twice quite badly, and his wife loses her shit with him.
What happened exactly?
It was nearly 2 when you burst in here, soused to the eyeballs from God knows where. I imagine you've probably forgotten that too. You were muttering something about peace and quiet and then proceeded to relieve yourself on my begonias before stumbling into bed.
Charming. I salute you, O Vice Admiral of the Narrow Seas.
He did piss in her flowers though, and that is unacceptable apparently. Drugs, okay. Pissing in flowers, nuh-uh. The weight of what happened weighs heavily on Miles, and his only real motivation to work is to finally find a lead that will lead him to Bill's murderer. I think for me, the perfect show of how good the character writing was is that we never really see Police Chief Snelling throughout the game till the very last case. He's been built up as this guy that is good at his job, but hates Miles, and we know what happened that night on the roof, so we, as the audience, and Miles himself, knows it wasn't truly his fault. Snelling, on the other hand, does blame Miles.
Is that right? Personally, I don't consider getting your partner killed the mark of a great detective.
And when he finally does come out and just says it to you, you don't hate him for it, even though you know the truth. Miles and Bills were both at fault for doing what they did. They know the risks and they took them. In my playthrough at least, I shot at the thief, so I very happily did what Bill asked of me and put him in danger. I don't know if that scene can play out differently, but Miles has felt guilty about it ever since himself. Regardless of whether we know it was a lose-lose situation, Snelling doesn't feel like a bad person because he blames Miles for Bill's death. It is an understandable feeling for him to feel. He lost a friend too. He lost a good officer. He lost 2 good officers. He might not have liked Miles anyway, but people don't always vibe. He doesn't end up being the stereotypical big bully boss that he was made out to be. When he finally does talk to you, even with all this build-up that this dislike for you isn't fair, he just comes over as a man who is sad he lost someone, angry that the person who was there couldn't save him, and in some ways even angrier that the one that survived then just left the police force altogether. Snelling in his own way is grieving, and he just has this understandable sadness about him that Miles just rolls up. When we can prove that we have the ability to solve a case he is struggling with, he doesn't just close the door on us, he lets us in to do our job.
A tenuous link, but plausible. I'll give you until tomorrow afternoon. If you haven't come up with anything, I'm throwing you in jail.
Sounds fair to me.
He's fair, and sure, he's bitter, but hell, so is Bill, so is Miles' wife, and so is Miles himself. Everyone is bitter. Lamplight City isn't a fair city. There aren't any winners in any of this, so you never are far away from understanding why a character reacts the way they do to anything happening to them. Now, I've gushed about this game a lot, but there is one thing I disliked, and that is the presentation of your casebook. This is gonna sound like a silly little thing, but I found it overcomplicated. It has tabs so you can look at suspects, figure out what your next task is, look at things you picked up or looked at, but it all just feels cluttered and ugly. Genuinely, it is the only ugly thing in the game. Lamplight City is gorgeous, from its beautiful detailed backgrounds to the not afraid to be imperfect portraits of the people in the city. It has this wonderful Dickensian feel to it, whilst adding its own unique twist, as this is an alternative universe with its own type of technology. Every screen I walked in on was breathtaking, so it just stands out so much more that when you pulled out the casebook, it seemed cluttered, unorganized, and just a little much. Back to another positive though, because I can't praise this game enough, is that the voice acting is superb.
How are things going with you?
Work is hectic as usual, and I'm spending my day off in here. But considering my home life is still a shambles, maybe this is the best place to be.
I'm truly sorry about that.
Don't be ridiculous. If it hadn't been for you, I'd still be chained to that philandering bastard. It hasn't been easy, but I'm much better off this way. Trust me. Anyway, work gives me something to focus on. I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yes, and I'm grateful to you for getting me these case leads. I know you're taking a risk to do it.
It's the least I can do.
Miles and Bill have great banter, their voice actors never become annoying, and their back and forth always stays fresh. There aren't any super weird or out of place sounding characters, each have their own way of speaking and feel pretty correct, all things considered. Throughout the game, there are a lot of very deep moments between Bill and Miles. Again, it is about Miles coming to terms with Bill's death after all, and those quiet moments where the two are talking out their feelings, their fears, and the guilt of what happened are so well performed. At no point are you taken out of the game by what they say or do. Heck, there's even a part where I confessed to my wife that I can still hear Bill in my head, and the prick ended up being annoying for like a whole 5 minutes, and I still loved it.
Oh, were you hoping for some witty insight? Shame, because you're not getting any. I'm sure this is terribly relevant, but I've got nothing to say about it.
It was perfect. It was the right amount of pettiness from a character who had begged and pleaded with his friend to be careful, to just watch him potentially throw both of their freedom away by blurting out they could hear voices in his head. Thankfully, our wife did not have us locked up, and we figure out that we're hot on the trail of Bill's murderer, and he cheers up a little. In fact, I think the game also ended perfectly. Just a quiet moment by Bill's grave. From top to bottom, this game oozed with a grimy kind of charisma that sucks you in. Its characters aren't perfect, they are human. The cases can be over the top and fantastical, but feel very real. It is a world on fire at the edge of a technological breakthrough, but living in fear of what that means for the everyday man. As I said, I'm 16 hours in and I barely scratched the surface. But now, I feel that is a good place as any to end this review though. I loved Lamplight City, if you couldn't tell, and I hope after I get all of my YouTube stuff under control, and I'm in a better place with my mental health, I can sit down and give the game a few more playthroughs before making a very in-depth look at the game. I feel it deserves it. I'd love to talk through the differences and how to solve the cases, the different people you can meet, and what you can lose out on if you don't think before you say stuff. Much like Rosewater, which I'm hoping will be the next review with any luck, it is a game that I need to sit and dedicate a whole bunch of time to so I can really get to its heart. For adventure games, I'd say this is pretty fucking impressive. Grundislav Games is a wonderful way of making games, and if you'd like to give Lamplight City a go, which you really should, then a link to the game will be in the description below. Now though, if you'd like to support this bear here, please feel free to like this video, comment below on whether you'd like to have Bill hum at you whilst you have private times.
Don't worry, Miles. I don't watch when you and Adelaide are having your private time.
It would be nice if you didn't spend the whole time humming.
I thought you appreciated some romantic music.
And subscribe. Also follow me over at Twitch at twitch.tv/Annakuma, where I actually streamed this game and Rosewater. I tend to stream point and clicks or adventure games in general every Monday, so come hang out. Till next time though, be careful out there, thank you for watching, and bye bye.